Hi, I'm Chef Kelly York, and this is Therapeutic Cuisine. I specialize in creating recipes that use natural medicinal ingredients that target and alleviate varying human health conditions. Today we're going to talk about insomnia. Insomnia is a sleep disorder where you have trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep, or maybe you wake up too soon in the morning, or you're sleepy all during the day. According to the National Sleep Association, 30 to 40% of Americans claim that they have had symptoms of insomnia in the last 12 months. Insomnia usually affects adult women the most, but it can happen to anybody. And teenagers, it's very important that teenagers get plenty of sleep because if they're sleep deprived, it puts them up to a higher risk of developing type 2 diabetes. There are many foods that you can eat that will put you into a natural sleeping state, like foods that are high in tryptophan, like turkey and certain herbs. Today's first recipe is going to be a banana, apricot, and almond biscotti. Let's go ahead and get started. I start out by making first a combination of a chia seed and water, and I do that with some warm water and chia seeds. And I like to use chia seeds because they will gelatinize when they mix with the water, and I can use that in my baking in place of an egg. If you're allergic to eggs, it's a good alternative in baking. So we're going to let those sit for a while, and let's go ahead and make the rest of the batter. What I'm going to do is take some oat flour and some barley flour, and this is going to be my dry ingredients. And I'm going to mix that with a little bit of baking powder, because I need a leavener, some salt. That I'm going to set aside. Okay, now we're going to take our wet ingredients and add them to our soaked chias, and we're going to add mashed bananas. Bananas are wonderful in insomnia recipes because they're high in tryptophan. They also contain a lot of potassium. They actually are one of the higher fruits in potassium. There are others that are higher, but they flavor this cookie in this case. We're going to add almond oil, and I like to use almond oil because it has good flavor and it's got a lot of the monounsaturated fats. I'm also adding coconut sugar. This is from the coconut palm tree. Looks a little soupy right now, but that's what it's supposed to be. And last but not least, a little bit of almond extract, and that's our flavoring. Now I'm going to bring the wet over and add it to the dry and mix our batter. And I'm going to let it sit for about 30 minutes in the refrigerator. Meanwhile, I'm going to come back and we're going to make a nice hot beverage that's going to go with our biscottis. Once this is blended, I will add the last remaining ingredients, however, and that is going to be our banana chips, again, high in potassium, and you want to use preferably banana chips that are unsweetened and unsulfured. And then we're going to also add dry apricots, and they are wonderfully high in potassium. And potassium is something that helps you sleep. Other things that are really good as far as teas are concerned is lemon balm, and we're going to make a tea a little bit later in this segment that will actually have the valerian in it, which is another wonderful sleeping aid. It comes from a root, a plant root. But okay, so that's mixed up. It's going to be a little tight. We're going to fold in the bananas, our chopped dried apricots, and finally some almonds. Okay, so I've mixed up all these ingredients so they're nice and evenly blended. I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes, and then we'll come back and we're going to make a wonderful bedtime beverage that will help put you to sleep, which is a cherry vanilla decaf tea. Okay, now that my dough is chilling, we're going to make a quick hot beverage, a tart cherry decaf vanilla tea. What I like to do is take some maple syrup and some apple pie spice or some cinnamon, and you mix that in a coffee mug. Just dump it right on in, give it a little stir. Into that I'm going to add some tart cherries. Now tart cherries are one of the best sources of melatonin. Melatonin is a hormone that's made in your pineal gland, which is kind of what some people call the third eye, because even though it's a gland in the middle of your head, it actually helps you regulate your sleep, your cycles. It recognizes light, so it knows when it starts to get dark out at night that you should be getting sleepy, and when it starts to get light out in the morning, you should start waking up. But as we age, our melatonin levels drop, and we need a little extra help. Or if we're going through a stressful time, or you've got a health issue that is keeping you up at night, anything that would normally keep you up at night is going to get your cycles messed up. So the melatonin in cherries, extra boost of that really helps. So the dried tart cherries are going to go in with my spice, and to that I'm going to add some hot tea. I like to use a decaf Madagascar vanilla tea. You can actually use any tea, but I find that the vanilla really works well. So in goes the tea, and then finally, last but not least, the wonderful tart cherry juice. Now you can find tart cherry juice in any retail grocery store in your neighborhood. You add that to the top, and that's it. You drink that before bed, maybe an hour before you go to sleep, and it's going to calm your nerves. It's going to slow you down. It's going to bring up the melatonin levels, and it tastes good. Okay, so when I come back, we're going to start our dough again and get that recipe finished. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab that biscotti dough out of the refrigerator. And I put it in the refrigerator just to firm it up a little bit. And what we're going to do is take the dough and divide it into two. We're going to make 2 loaves. And the size of the loaf is going to be about 12 inches long and 2 inches in diameter. So kind of slightly flat on the top. The dough's a little crumbly. If it's too crumbly, you might want to add just a little bit more liquid. But biscotti is a dense cookie. It's also a twice baked cookie. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop these in the oven, and we're going to let them get nice and firm. We're going to remove them then after they cook, and then slice them up, and then we have to rebake them. That's hence the twice baked cookie. But biscotti is a wonderful cookie for having with your tea or your coffee, afternoon hot warm beverage, or your hot beverage before you go to bed. Okay. If you make these into 1 loaf, it's going to take a little bit longer to cook, and you're going to have a bigger biscotti. And I like to have 2 small biscottis rather than 1 big one. It just makes me feel like I'm eating more cookies. Okay, now we have our 2 loaves formed. I'm going to let them sit here while my oven preheats. I want it to get up to 350 degrees. In the meantime, I'm going to make another hot bedtime beverage that you might want to try. This one I call apple pie alamode. First thing we're going to do is, again, mix the spices in the glass, and we're going to take some apple pie spice and mix it with some honey. And I'm going to give that a little stir into a paste. We're also going to add some vanilla or some almond extract. I personally prefer the almond extract, but you can use either. And then finally, we're going to add some dehydrated apples. I like to crunch them up a little bit. You need about 1/8 of a cup. We're going to put that in there. Give it all a stir, get it all coated with the honey. And then we're going to add some valerian root. Now, valerian root is an extract that's made from the oil of a perennial root, or from a perennial plant, and it's actually pretty nasty smelling. But the good thing about it is that it works as a very effective sedative. A few drops, a half a teaspoon at the most is all you need. And the reason that we want to put the spices into our beverage here is because it really takes the edge off of that. And actually some people learn to really like the flavor of valerian. So about 7 drops. Now you can add a little bit more if you really have a problem, but it's natural. So about a quarter of a teaspoon, a half at the most. Now we're going to add some hot milk, and the milk will rehydrate the apples, and that's it. That's all there is to it. I'm going to go ahead and get, I think my oven is warm enough, so let's go ahead and get our biscotti in the oven, and then we're going to come back and we're going to make one more dough, a cheddar cheese round with almond that goes well with the tart cherry juice and decaf tea. One of the things that I like to nibble on when I have a hot bedtime beverage, the apple pie alamode one in particular, is a savory cheddar nut round. It goes really good with the apple pie theme. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to make that. It's real simple. You can do this by hand or you can use a food processor. I'm going to use the hand method here. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in some cheddar cheese into my bowl and then add some flours, which I like to use the barley and the oat flour. And to that, I'm going to add some turmeric. Now, turmeric is really good for an anti-inflammatory. It gives a little color. It doesn't have much flavor. Turmeric is used to make mustard yellow, so it has a very pungent, earthy flavor. And then next, I'm going to add some salt. There's no sugar in this recipe, it's savory. I'm also going to add some almond butter and some cherry juice. Now the cherry juice again is full and high and rich in that melatonin, which again really helps regulate your sleep cycles. So in goes the tart cherry juice. You can buy that in any grocery store. If you can't find it, maybe you could substitute with pomegranate juice. You also want to get a tart cherry juice that is 100% juice, not one of those cocktail mixes that have the high fructose corn syrup in it. And finally, I'm going to add an egg yolk. So I'm going to take this and fold the batter together till it all comes together. Now I'm going to actually add my spoon. My spatula is a little too soft because the batter will be stiff at first. This is why sometimes I will make this in a food processor. If you pulse it in the processor, you want it to come together like a ball. When it gets to that stage, then you're ready. So give me a minute here. I'm going to work this out. Actually, I'm going to put my hands in it. Again, there's no sugar in this. A savory cracker. I like to top it sometimes before bed with a slice of turkey because turkey's high in tryptophan. And tryptophan is the precursor to serotonin. Your body will take the tryptophan and make it into serotonin, which is that feel-good chemical in your brain, so it can actually help with depression. Now this is coming together nicely. We're getting a slight pale yellow. I'm going to take this, get it off my hands here, and make two tube-like shapes. You can wrap it up in saran wrap and make like a sausage, but I'm going to go ahead and just start rolling it out right away on the cutting board. If this is a little too dry, you can add a few drops of water. Okay, let's set that aside. Make these a little more even. And this is something that the kids actually like to help making. It's kind of like working with Play-Doh. When I make these into tubes, it's real easy to get a uniform shape. And that's kind of important so that you can kind of keep track of what you're eating, portion control, and also helps it cook more evenly. So let's go ahead and roll that. Now I would take this and put it in saran wrap and roll it like a sausage. So after these get rolled, you want to put them in the refrigerator for, maybe 30 minutes just to firm them up. I'm going to go ahead and do the second tube here. Let this relax. Again, this is something the kids have a lot of fun just playing in it. So when you wrap these in plastic wrap, you want to take them, you can actually kind of roll them around like a sausage and get them nice and tight and uniform. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and check that biscotti. I'm starting to smell it, and that's a good sign that it's time to get it out of the oven and take a look at it. And it looks good. I'm going to let that cool a little bit. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and cut our cheddar rounds. The first thing I'm going to do is slice. Sometimes I'll slice a little bit off the end, but I'm going to make the end a little thicker so that I can use every bit of my roll, no waste. I'm going to make my cheddar rounds pretty thick here. You can cut them thinner and it'll cook faster, but then you got to watch very carefully because if you turn your back for 1 second too long, they can burn. You can also try to reshape them a little bit, make them a little bit more round. Or you can keep them sort of flat like this. It's all good. It looks like a cracker. So let's go ahead and fill up our cookie sheet. Probably with this first roll. Again, these are very good with, say, a smear of tart cherry jam and a slice of turkey. Once I get the cookie sheet filled with my slices, I'm going to take a pastry brush and take a little bit of egg white and some water, make a little egg wash, and brush the tops of the cookies. And this is going to give a nice shine when they bake. It's also going to be a glue for me to add a whole almond. And that clues you in that there is some almond in this recipe with the almond flour or the almond butter. And after all these are brushed, I'm going to add some mustard seeds as well. Again, it kind of clues you in that this is not a sweet cookie, it's a savory round. So my almond, I'm going to just press in the middle. Because I put that egg wash on, it's going to bake and glue to the cookie a little bit. And then I'm just going to sprinkle it with the mustard seeds. You can use black mustard seeds, you can use white mustard seeds, or you could use no mustard seeds. It's all personal preference. Almonds are full of tryptophan themselves, so it's another ingredient for just helping relax you in the evening. I usually serve a couple cookies with my apple pie a la mode, and it'll really put you in a nice calm state of mind before you go to bed. These, once they cook, I will store it covered in a container and they will last, hopefully, a few days. And I say hopefully, because not because they go bad, but because people eat them. They make a nice snack. Okay, so that's our cookies. I'm going to go ahead and pop those in the oven. And we'll start cutting our biscotti. Now biscotti, again, is a twice-baked cookie. So we're going to have to take this loaf and we're going to cut them into slices about 3/4 of an inch thick. And you're going to want to not put any kind of glaze on it. You just want to cook it again so it gets brown and toasted and dried. Biscotti is often used to dip into coffee, tea, or Italian wine after dinner. And the reason that the cookie is twice baked and it's dry, because it really soaks up whatever you dip into it. So let's get our second loaf here off the pan. And I'll get these back in the oven, and then we'll come back and we're going to plate up and review all of our recipes that we've made today that help address insomnia. So I'll be right back. Okay, our biscotti is out of the oven and my cheddar nut rounds are also finished being baked. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of those to each of the bedtime beverages. Okay, the biscotti goes very nice with that tart vanilla cherry tea bedtime beverage drink, and our cheddar nut rounds are a wonderful pairing for the beverage that has the valerian in it. And again, that is from a root plant that really works like a sedative. It makes you sleep very soundly, makes you get to sleep a little bit quicker. Also, some of the things that you want to do to help fight insomnia is make sure you get plenty of exercise. If you really do a good workout during the day, it's going to make you sleep a little bit better. You can also do some visual breathing exercises and visual exercises. Repeat some words over and over again, and that'll put you to sleep. Eat the foods that are high in tryptophan and have a good amount of potassium and magnesium, like your apples and your pears and peaches, bananas and nuts. All of those things promote the good chemicals in your mind, in your brain, in your muscles. Relax your muscles. Try to get rid of the stress in your life. Figure out what it is that really you're worrying about. Erase all of those. And that's my insomnia episode. And remember, as the father of medicine Hippocrates said, let food be thy medicine and let medicine be thy food. I'll see you again soon.